24 hours after they were unveiled in the federal budget, Labor's income tax cuts are tonight on the verge of passing Parliament, but not with the support of the coalition. Peter Dutton is deriding the $17 billion plan as a cruel hoax. Here's National Affairs correspondent Jane Norman.
Hey mate, how you going?
The ink barely dry on their budget papers, but Labor's sales team has no time to waste.
G'day Nat. Good morning Sarah. Good morning James.
With an election to be called within days, this economic blueprint doubles as the government's re-election pitch.
These tax cut top-ups, we're topping up those tax cuts.
The government is doing our bit by adding a top-up, if you like, for the tax cuts that we introduced last year.
After saying me too to most of Labor's pre-election policies, the opposition's now creating a point of difference.
I think what Australians saw last night was a cruel hoax. It's 70 cents a week in 15 months' time.
An election bribe, 70 cents a day in over a year's time, it simply doesn't cut it.
From July next year, Labor's plan would see workers get a $270 tax cut worth about $5 a week. The following year, they'd get a $530 cut, saving $10 a week. The $17 billion plan among $30 billion worth of cost of living measures in last night's budget. Seizing the chance to wedge their political opponents, the government presented the bill to Parliament first thing.
The Shadow Treasurer's brain explosion last night opposing these tax cuts now makes the choice at this election absolutely crystal clear.
Daring the coalition to vote against it.
Well, Mr Speaker, they are delulu with no salulu, Mr Speaker. They are completely delusional.
Peter Dutton held his nerve.
What was that incoherent rant from this Prime Minister? Remember Uncle Arthur? There he was, floating around.
The coalition voted no, giving Labor ground to fight on.
Today, they voted for higher taxes on Australian workers.
The tax cuts, one of few bright spots in a budget, confirming climbing debt and worsening deficits.
Did you like any of the front pages?
Next question.
The Senate will sit late into the night to pass the income tax cuts, most likely with the support of the Greens and crossbench. Labor feels as though it's been handed a gift, with the Liberal Party voting against tax cuts on the eve of an election. But Peter Dutton is dropping big hints that he'll unveil a cost of living plan of his own when he delivers his budget reply speech tomorrow. Jane Norman, ABC News, Canberra.
The debate over tax cuts is heightening pressure on the opposition leader Peter Dutton ahead of his budget reply tomorrow night. For analysis, here's National Political Lead David Speers.
These aren't big tax cuts. Neither side is pretending they are. But this has become a big political moment. Peter Dutton's decision to back recent Labor spending measures but oppose a tax cut, well, it's not what Liberal leaders typically do. And by rushing a bill through Parliament, Labor is boxing in the coalition, goading it to go to the election promising an increase in taxes. No one in the coalition wants to do that. But few in opposition ranks are clear as to exactly what the plan is right now. They're unsure whether Peter Dutton will offer tax cuts of his own when he delivers his budget reply here tomorrow night. The hints being dropped by the opposition leader suggest he wants to tackle housing affordability, lower energy prices and boost defence spending. It's understood final decisions are still to be made. In the meantime, Labor is happy to see the pressure on Peter Dutton and a debate over modest tax cuts rather than the return to deficits as far as the eye can see in this budget.
Some workers will find it easier to switch jobs after non-compete clauses were announced in the federal budget for those on low and middle incomes. The government says the reform could boost the economy by up to $5 billion a year, but some businesses are slamming the move.
How are we going? Jocelyn Fair's staff have to agree to a non-compete clause in their contract when they join her team.
I believe it's fair not to go to competitors or not to open up.
Her ex-employees cannot work for or set up their own dress hire business for 12 months after resigning.
I wouldn't be able to function if they were to leave with my customers also.
Around 3 million workers have non-compete clauses in their employment contracts. The Albanese government will ban them for workers earning up to $175,000 a year. Research suggests it could lift wages by between 2 to 4%, or up to $2,500 a year, and potentially increase annual GDP by $5 billion.
Having them banned here in Australia will make a real difference.
We think that the better approach is education, not regulation.
Non-compete clauses are often used to stop higher-level employees and executives from switching to a competitor. But legal aid lawyers say they're also being used to stop lower-paid workers from getting a better job, people who can't afford to take their boss to court.
It may be the case that many non-compete clauses are, in fact, unenforceable if they were to be challenged in the courts. That doesn't necessarily mean that they have no practical effect. For many workers, there can be a chilling effect.
For employers like Jocelyn, the ban is bad news.
There needs to be a competitive edge. There needs to be a time frame for all businesses.
Setting the tone for the looming federal election. Rihanna Whitson, ABC News.
The budget forecasts that almost $7 billion worth of revenue from the sale of tobacco will go up in smoke. It's reigniting a debate about the taxes on cigarettes, with smokers increasingly turning to cheaper products that are readily available on the black market.
Dawn raids in Sydney as police close in on an elusive target.
Police search warrant, open the door!
They've charged 7 men who they say are involved in the growing illicit tobacco trade, allegedly breaking into storage facilities to steal it from other criminals. And with tens of millions of dollars at stake, police say the gang resorted to extreme measures.
On one occasion, they've used an implement to remove a partial toe from one of the victims.
When bought legally, a 25-pack of cigarettes could easily cost more than $50, and much of that's due to federal tobacco excise. But on the black market, it could cost less than $15. Rowan Pike used to lead the tobacco strike team at Border Force.
Within 50 metres of where I'm standing now, there are 2 shops selling illicit tobacco, and they've got no qualms about selling to anyone who walks in and asks for the cheap tobacco.
And that means a massive source of revenue is draining away. 10 years ago, the tobacco excise was less than 50 cents per cigarette, but it's now almost tripled to $1.40. Over the same time period, the government saw revenue soar to more than $15 billion a year. But over the past 5 years or so, that has plummeted, and this budget shows just over $7 billion is being clawed back.
Over the last few national surveys, we have seen the drop in people reporting quitting smoking.
But better health habits can't account for the massive drop in revenue. The government's spending more than $150 million over the next 2 years to crack down on the illicit trade. But some experts say it should also review the tax.
So that there's a balance between dissuading people from smoking, but also dissuading them from going to the black market.
We'd rather give tax relief to every Australian taxpayer than to provide tax relief for smoking.
But as long as there are cheap cigarettes under the counter, smokers will be less inclined to buy tobacco legally off the shelf. Nick Dole, ABC News.
Tensions have boiled over in Canberra as debate continues over contentious changes to Australia's environmental laws. Labor says its amendments are designed to protect the salmon industry in Tasmania, but critics say it's a political fix that could cause the extinction of an endangered species, and they have celebrity support.
On the floor of the Senate, political debate takes an unexpected turn.
Have you sold out your environment credentials for a rotten, stinking extinction salmon? Extinction salmon.
The shock tactics coming after another Greens senator heckled the Prime Minister during a post-budget media call.
Pushing the species to the brink of extinction underneath the cover of a budget. You're a pack of mongrels.
Scientists say salmon farming in Tasmania's Macquarie Harbour is the main threat to the endangered Maugean skate. But with recent data showing an improvement in water quality and a stabilisation in skate numbers, the government is trying to amend environmental laws to prevent a potential shutdown of the industry.
We're not going to stand by and see workers lose their jobs because of this broken law.
The changes would limit to 5 years the amount of time certain projects can be legally challenged, putting an end to Tanya Plibersek's current consideration of whether salmon farming in Macquarie Harbour can continue at its present scale.
The salmon industry will wear the stain of an extinction, a totally avoidable extinction.
It's bad policy, but it is so poorly drafted that it won't even achieve the thing that it's set out to do.
Hollywood star Leonardo DiCaprio has weighed into the debate, and while the coalition supports the changes in principle, it says Labor should have acted much sooner.
The government have been left with no choice but to legislate to work around this minister.
The legislation isn't limited to Macquarie Harbour or the salmon industry, meaning it could have significant implications for other projects across the country that are accused of environmental harm. Jono Gibson, ABC News.